Hello, and welcome to another vloggy, crafty video here on my channel, Not a Lazy Susan. My name's Susan, pronouns she, her. It is Saturday morning, about mid-morning. I think it's about 10:30. I'm sleepy, and full disclosure, I am what they say, I'm raw dogging it. I don't have any ADHD meds today, so we're just leaning into it. I have to pick up my refill tonight, I guess, but it means I am not taking any today, and it already feels like I'm like, what, where, what, huh, who, whoa. Anyway, so we're going for funny, sporadic energy today. We're just gonna lean into it. It's fine. Anyway, I'm in the car, as you can see, because I am headed into Michael's. I have a coupon for 40% off one item, and I want to get a, hopefully they have it in there. The website said they had it in stock, but a Clover Amore crochet hook set, because I don't actually have a full set of crochet hooks. My crochet hook collection has just been growing, and I've been adding to it for probably the last decade, and a lot of the hooks that I have are not my favorite, or right now they're not working for my hands. And with the incredibly cold weather that we're having right now, it is March 2nd, and we're under a snowfall advisory, and it's just, yeah, there's just a lot of snow on the ground. My joints hurt so much. I have unlocked one of the over 40 achievements that I guess they don't tell you about, which is arthritis in pretty much every joint on the right side of my body. So yeah, I want to get new crochet hooks. I started a new crochet project, and the hook that I have is, I want to be using somewhere around a 3mm hook, but the hooks that I have either are too big for my hand, or they are honestly kind of crappy. And I know my one 3mm hook that I have, it's a Knitter's Pride one, and the hook part itself, the finish has started coming off, and I tried to file it down with one of my nail files, but it just isn't working. So I'm gonna go in and see if they have those kits in stock, and then hopefully get it for 40% off, because they're like over $100, which makes sense because each hook is like, I don't know, between $8 and $10 or something. So it makes sense. And then I'll see if there's anything else in there that strikes my fancy, but I'm gonna try to hold off buying stuff as best I can. But we'll see, because we have unmedicated Susan today. For those that are new around here, I have ADHD, diagnosed with ADHD when I turned 40, I guess, around yeah, when I turned 40. And I do take a stimulant, and I ran out this past month, February. Oh my gosh, folks. February has felt like a bit of a hot mess. I didn't want it to be a hot mess, but it turned into a hot mess. I don't know if I like skipped pills, or like if I took too many one day. I have this sneaky suspicion. Earlier this month, I had to wear a heart monitor for a different reason. I had to wear one of those 24-hour heart monitor things, and I had to wake up really early to go to the appointment to get it fitted. And I was so scattered that morning that there is a very real chance that I took a double dose of my medication, which kind of, I think that really made my heart race way more than it normally does, because my heart doesn't normally race even when I'm on the stimulant that I take Vyvanse, if you're curious, and my heart doesn't normally race when I'm on it, but it was racing then, and it was, so I think I screwed up the heart monitor stuff. Anyway, I digress. This is all to say, I was surprised when I ran out, when my pill bottle was empty. And so yeah, I don't order from Amazon very often, but I did order from Amazon like a 30 pill, like a 30-day pill organizer. And I'm going to reorganize the cupboard and stuff. Hopefully it comes, I'm hoping it'll be arriving tomorrow on Sunday. But my hope is that this will help me be a bit more on track. I need to be so deliberate about stuff, folks. It's like, I know I was kind of always like this, but the older I'm getting, the worse it's getting. So it's, yeah, I need to have pill containers with actual numbers on it designated for each day, and I need to be very, very deliberate. We'll see what this chaotic day will do. I really do not want to kind of give in to my cool ADHD impulses too much, especially when I have my wallet with me. If you know, you know. Anyway, we'll see what's in there, and then I'm gonna head home and start working on another project, and I'll share with you the finished object from my last, I have 2 finished objects actually, from the last vlog. So I'm excited to share that with you. And then also, I think, talk about the book that I'm reading. So I'm going to do that a little later. But it's time to go into Michael's, because I think it's filling up, because I think this is the one and only day that the sale is happening. And I am terrified they're going to buy those hooks out from under me. All of these retirees going in, looking serious. I gotta scoop up that stuff before they do. You're going down, Grandma. Just kidding. All right, check in with you in a bit. Hello. I've returned. I've come home, I have eaten a brief amount of lunch, and yeah, I got some coffee. And I'm really happy to be inside because it's miserable out there and I don't want to walk around out there. I don't want to drive out there. Yeah, nah. Nope. Don't want it. So I'm happy to be inside now and to spend basically my afternoon crafting and then doing some chores, I guess, that I just haven't wanted to do. So I'm going to force myself to do them at a certain point once I finish sharing this stuff with you. So I did pick up the crochet hook set once I managed to find a staff member at Michael's because not that it was very busy in Michael's, but I think I just came at the wrong time. Like they must have been having like a switch over or something with their shift, like for breaks or something, but it was like I couldn't find a staff member at all. Anyway, I got my hooks, so I have a full set now of Clover Amour hooks, and the set I got goes from like let me see, I took them all out now, so now all I have is the plastic case it comes in. Yeah, there are 10 sizes. They go from a 2.25 millimeter to a 6 millimeter. And that's really, that's what I wanted for a crochet hook, because it's the same when I'm knitting. I tend to be very loose when I'm knitting, and when I crochet, I'm even looser when I crochet. I have gotten more confident with my crochet skills and more consistent with my tension over the last year, but I still tend to err on the looser side. So I wanted to have a smaller hook because I'm working with sock weight yarn. I'm working with fingering weight yarn to do these granny squares that I'm doing. Speaking of granny squares, look at this. Look at this. Let me put my coffee away. Let me put it over here. I mean, last video I was working on this, and now it's done. It's done. I mean, ugh. Hey, what? Fashion. I do have it tucked in. If I untuck it, it's about this long. I ran out of yarn, so I have the bottom ribbing is done in basically the same yarn as that's around the circle here. I think that there was a little bit of bleeding from the pink DK weight I used to attach everything together, but not enough to cause issues. But I am tucking it in because my pants are a little large on me and I don't want to put on a belt. So tucking in a DK weight sweater into my pants makes my pants fit a little better. There we go. Plus I kind of like how it looks tucked in, because it looks like a little top. I mean, it not looks like a little top, it is a little top. I had initially planned to make this like an oversized pullover. That was my initial plan. When I was putting everything together, I realized that I didn't necessarily want it as big as what it was going to be. And also I was realizing I was running out of yarn, and it was going to be a bit of an annoying thing to get more. So I initially was supposed to have like, what was it, 102 granny squares to stitch together for the front and the back, and plus the full length sleeves, but I cut that down considerably. Can't remember exactly how many squares I have now. I don't know if I wrote it down. Consulting my knitting journal. I don't know exactly. I think I may have just done not even 60. I think I may have done like 56 or something like that. I don't know. I love how it turned out. I didn't make the armholes like super deep. The other one I made that's similar to this, I basically omitted one of the granny squares right here. So it's like a true sweater vest kind of deep armhole. This one, I made the armhole up higher so that I can wear it as a little top. And because the squares are wide enough here, and then I added a square for just like the top of the shoulder, it kind of fits like a tiny little capped sleeve, which I really love. And then also, because I had created basically a wider opening in the front, when I picked up the ribbing around, because I picked up the ribbing all along here and all along the armhole, and I didn't pick up every stitch of the crochet edge. I just did almost every stitch using a 3 millimeter needle, I believe, 3 or 3.5, and then did about 11 rows, I guess, of 1x1 ribbing. And what that's done, it's kind of pulled everything in so it wasn't really open. And I really love how this turned out. And I love it tucked in like this. This is definitely something that is, you know, work appropriate. I can wear this to work, and I love it because it's not too low or anything like that. It's not sheer or anything. And, you know, I have like a fluorescent pink sports bra on underneath this, and you can't really tell. So hey, made a thing. Super stoked about it. And immediately as I finished this, because I did block it at the knitting class I was teaching this week, as soon as I finished, I got yarn to start making another one, and that's what I'm crocheting with. So I needed to have the smaller hook. This is a 2.75 mil, but the yarn that I got, I was just window shopping, and I noticed that they got some new sock yarns in, and I am a huge fan of Lang yarns. I love Lang yarns because they do a lot of really interesting bases, and they're pretty affordable too, all things considered. I don't know, I find them really fun, and I'm a huge fan of color changing yarn and everything too. So I did see this stuff, which you can kind of see here. It's glittery. It's a single ply yarn that's has glitter through it. It is like a self-striping, intended to be a self-striping yarn, and it's super washable with nylon and polyester. The polyester is what the little silvery bits are in there. This is the Mill Colory Socks and Lace Luxe yarn. I was thinking I want to make another. I'm on a roll. This is the second crochet top I've done. I want to make another one, and at a finer gauge so that I can make an even finer crochet square, because I think that's like one of the things I'm finding very cool about crochet and crocheting granny squares is how much fun it is to, for one thing, play with color and texture, but also play around with the gauge, because a lot of the crocheted things I've seen, like whether it's, cool little projects on YouTube or on Instagram or whatever, they're always, or not always, they tend to be like larger gauge. It's like the smallest gauge you'll find is maybe a worsted weight, kind of like what I'm wearing here. And you don't see a ton of larger garments made with fingering weight yarn and granny squares. I could be wrong in all of this, definitely be wrong, but I just haven't seen them. So that's what I want to do. And I want to do it I really want to try making something with sleeves, like not full length sleeves, but little short sleeves. I did try to do it with this, and I had pinned the squares to do the sleeve, but the problem was because this ended up being a little more form-fitting, there's not a ton of ease across the bust here. It's like, for me right now, it's probably 1 inch of ease, roughly, maybe. When I blocked it, it grew by about 1/2 inch, and it grew lengthwise by about 2 inches. But anyway, when I had attached the sleeve on there, it was way too bulky on the underarm. So I'm thinking if maybe this was larger, that wouldn't have been so much of an issue, because it would have been sort of a natural drop shoulder situation, and that would counteract the amount of bulk in the armpit. Because my armhole was pretty tight up, I had all this extra fabric in my pit, and I didn't want it. So I'm gonna try to do that this time with a smaller gauge, and I'm basing the shape of it off of a pattern I purchased a few years ago from James N. Watts, and that I was going to knit but then didn't knit, and whatever. Anyway, it's been sitting in my library. But basically that pattern, it is a almost like a log cabin style top. It's called the Mystic Square, and so you make one rectangle or panel or whatever, and then you pick up stitches on one edge, and you do another rectangle, and then you pick up stitches along those 2 edges, pick up another rectangle that way, and then you make 2 panels, you sew them together, pick up for the sleeves, do the ribbing, do your neck. There you go. you end up with this cute boxy little top. And that is what I am going to try to do with series of granny squares. We'll see if it works. I have hope. I have hopes that it's going to work. For the center of the squares, what I am using are a series of mini skeins that I had picked up when I went to the Creekside Fiber Festival, Yarn Festival. That was in Airdrie back in January. And I didn't get these at the festival, but I got it at Polka Dot Creek, which is a yarn shop, but also dye house based in Airdrie, Alberta. And they're the folks that help put off the Creekside Yarn Festival, which is really cool. So I went to Polka Dot Creek for the first time just to check them out before I went to the festival. I got to see Melissa. Hi, Melissa. Hello. And I chose some yarns, some little mini skeins to do a project with. I had an idea of doing one thing and now I'm doing something completely different, but that's cool because Polka Dot Creek, they have so many minis. There's so many mini skeins. They have like a mini bar and you can just pick and choose of all of their colorways and a lot of their bases. They even have like DK mini skeins, which is amazing. So huge fan of mini skeins. And I picked up 2 sets of mini skeins that were both in the same color. I picked up one that is in the colorway Highlighter, which is this. It's like a fluorescent yellow. And I have it in the merino, just smooth fingering weight base. And then I have it in a tweed fingering weight base as well. So the color is ends up being just slightly different between the two, which is fun. And then I also picked up in the same bases, but just a slightly different color. This is chartreuse. So it's a really lovely yellow green. And so these are the centers of my squares, and they are living still in the best use of leftover granny squares I've figured out, which is making little yarn ball cozies. If you tend to make a lot of granny squares and you end up with a lot of them, make a yarn ball cozy because it's kind of great. It keeps everything contained. I don't know how this is going to turn out. As I'm building my squares and everything, here are my squares so far. They're about like between 3.5 and 4 inches. I'm hoping they're like 3.75 is kind of what I want-ish for putting them together. But again, when I started making these, I was using a slightly larger hook. So now that I have the hook size that I want, my squares are going to be a little tighter. So we'll see. I might end up having to redo some squares, but I want each square, you can see, has the same kind of border around it, and that is the Lang yarn. But it means that every single square is completely different because it's a self-striping yarn. So like a color changing self-striping. So that's really cool. So when I stitch them all together, I'm gonna have a lot of fun just trying to figure out the placement of where I'm gonna place things together and what looks good. I may or may not do the ribbing on the neck and the sleeves and the hem in that Lang yarn, or I may use a completely different yarn. I haven't decided. If I decide to do the ribbing in a completely different color, I am going to use this leftover half skein I have that's inside of a cozy here. It's this really pretty, really great chartreuse neon green. It's definitely has a lot of yellow in it. This is from the Woolen Frog, who is an indie dyer outside of Medicine Hat, I believe, in Alberta. And this colorway is called, what is it called? It's called Lime Treat, and definitely is a lime treat. So I might use this as like the neckline and, you know, all of the ribbing, just because it, you know, kind of speaks with these colors, so it would all be kind of in the same family. But again, I'm not going to make that decision until I get there. This yarn is the leftover because I've been using it to make a Musselburgh hat, so I want to share that hat with you. It's inside this bag here, which is a cute little like knot bag thing that I made a few years ago. This is the progress on my Musselburgh hat. Here I have the ball. I have the ball inside because if you've ever made the Musselburgh, at a certain point it gets the size that you can just use the actual hat as a project bag to hold your yarn. The first half of my hat is done in that lime treat color, and then I'm using up this yarn, which I am so delighted that the gauge is just perfect, that it's doing a self-striping action here, because this yarn here is was knit up into something previously and then I unraveled it, but it is yarn that I dyed when I used to teach yarn painting classes at the knitting store I work at, and I did this one as just like a fun little sample to use up some of the leftover colors that we had. We made some stock solutions and I just wanted to use it all up. And so it is fluorescent pink and then gold, kind of like a nice yellowy brown, orangey brown kind of color, which is really neat. And I have this progress keeper here of a pearl. It's very Barbie. Yeah, I am thrilled with how this is turning out and pretty excited that this was doing some striping. I'm hoping this is one of the projects I bring around, just like what Mackenzie of M to the Third has been doing, where it's like, you know, these are the new socks. The Musselburgh is the new socks. Because it doesn't, you're just knitting around and around and around, and it doesn't require too much thought or anything like that, especially once you get past the increases when you're starting. So I'm hoping to get essentially the exact same length as this before I start doing decreases, because I want this to be pretty long, large-ish, so that I can roll up the brim a fair bit. I want to have a big brim. But yeah, that's what that yarn came from, and I'm very happy that I have some of it left because this color is just fantastic and I love it, and I think it goes really great with this rando pink yarn that I dyed probably 5 years ago now, maybe 6. But yeah, I'm really digging it. Speaking of hats, I know you might be wondering, I did finish the bunny hat that I was making last time. Here it is. Look at it. This is the bunny hat. Oh my gosh. I did end up making it a little too long. However, the blocking process did loosen it up. So it feels really comfortable when I wear it. Here we go. Yeah. It's a very professional hat, I gotta say. Get this curl out of the way there. There we go. It turned out so funny, and exactly, I keep wanting to like do something slightly inappropriate with these ears. Every time they stick up, I'm like, I feel like I have udders on top of my head. And that if I was a teenager, if I was in grade 8, I have this one particular friend that if I had this hat when I was in grade 8, I'm pretty sure he would have grabbed it and like started milking it like a cow. Yeah. Anyway, I'm pleased with how this turned out, and I love the Spin Cycle Plump. Pairing it with mohair was the best decision, and highly recommend. If you're using Spin Cycle Plump for anything and you're finding it feeling a lot like rope, add some mohair and it's going to make all of the difference, especially when you wash it. But I'm really pleased with how this hat turned out. I love it. But I'm going to take it off now. Those are my making updates for the most part. Today, what's on my docket for the rest of the day is that I'm going to keep working on my crocheted squares. I have to deal with the dishes and some laundry and like other boring house stuff, but I'm going to try to get through it by listening to my current audiobook, which is a nonfiction book by, I'm trying to remember who it's by here. One of the things that's going to help me through all of the like home tasks that I have to do that I really don't want to do, I'm going to listen to the audiobook that I started earlier this week. I haven't been doing a lot of reading lately, and just because I haven't had the brain space for it. But I decided I wanted to start a new audiobook, but I didn't necessarily want to listen to any fiction right now, which is weird. It's a little weird. I'm primarily a fiction reader, and I've been reading a lot of science fiction lately, and yeah, I wanted to read a nonfiction. So I restarted my Everand subscription that used to be Scribd. They changed their name, and that is a audiobook and ebook app service that you can subscribe to, and it's kind of like Netflix. So for however many dollars a month, you get access to unlimited streaming for audiobooks and ebooks and all of that. So sometimes I don't usually have a consistent membership with them or a subscription with them. It's basically if all of my holds on the Libby app for the library, when my holds are the wait list is too long, I will sometimes double check to see if the books are on Everand, and then if they are, I will restart that membership for a month so that I can listen to a bunch of books, and then usually the next month I unsubscribe and do it again in another 3 months from now. So I don't do it all the time. This is all to say the book that I'm reading right now is called The Little Book of Aliens, and it's by Adam Frank, narrated by Sean Pratt. So I'm just looking at my iPad on the side here. I have it pulled up. And it is a nonfiction book that is all about aliens and UFOs and UAPs and all of that stuff. And it's written by Adam Frank, who is a astrobiologist, I believe. And he, PhD, all this stuff, and he is I guess he grew up obsessed with aliens, and that's what kind of guided him to take the education and career path that he has as a astrophysicist, astrobiologist thing. And it's a really accessible book, I gotta say. The narrator, the reader of it, Sean Pratt, he's fantastic. It makes the entire book, which, it's a nonfiction book about astronomy and physics and outer space. And it can be I was a little afraid because I'm I hope there isn't all of this huge sciencey jargon that I am not going to understand and not be able to pay attention with. I hope that this book is written with a narrative and that it's engaging and all of that stuff. And holy crow, folks, it's super engaging. It's like listening to a podcast. I really, really enjoying it so far. And it's, it's not heavy. The ideas are really big and eye-opening and all this stuff. And I will say, I watch a lot of paranormal TV. I watch a lot of things about aliens. I watch a lot of things about ghosts. I'm an Aquarian. This is part of my DNA. I've always been obsessed with that stuff. And I often say, when I was a teen anyway, I'd be oh, what's your sexuality? And I've always said X-Files. That's my sexuality, is X-Files. Because you got Mulder and Scully and a couple of aliens, and A plus, man. Yeah, this book is great. So it's also really funny, and I'm very much enjoying it. I'm about halfway through. I'm hoping to finish it today and then get started on, I don't know, some other books, I'm really in a sci-fi mood. So I think I might go back to read some sci-fi. Hopefully I can find something that's funny or something that's at least really weird. I want funny and weird. So we'll see. But The Little Book of Aliens, if you're interested in stuff like that, check it out. Because if you're not a sciencey person, if you don't have a background in science, I have a background in information science, just not, that didn't require me to know physics necessarily. I never did a physics class. When I think about high school, this is like, okay, slight ADHD tangent here, but when I think about my high school experience, I think it was pretty different from a lot of other people's, because I went to school in the 90s and I grew up in Newfoundland. I didn't have to do a lot of science classes. Like, I did biology for grade 10 and grade 11, but then I didn't have to do any other science after that, which is weird. So like, I never did chemistry. I never did a chemistry class or a physics class. I've never done calculus because I was in like basic remedial math that I still failed because they didn't use knitting to teach me math. If they had used knitting to teach me math, I would have gotten it, but don't make me do math without a calculator. My brain can't do it. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat something, listen to an audiobook, continue on my fun crochet journey of this little guy. I mean, how cute is that? Looking so cute. Color combo is so good. That chartreuse, I love it. And yeah, maybe eventually go for a walk on my treadmill. We'll see. Because it is still, it's still gross outside, like really, really snowy. Anyway, I'll check in with you in a little bit.